All right, real excited to talk to my next guest on the Sports Card Shop guest line. He's one of the, in my opinion, one of the preeminent ticket collectors uh, in the world, I'll say, and got quite a collection. We're going to talk a lot about, collecting tickets, the do's, the don'ts. He's going to show off some of his favorite items as well. But welcome, Marc Mader.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
So, first time on the show, I appreciate you coming on. Kind of the always start off sort of question, right? Kind of how you got your start into collecting whatever, whether it was cards, to where you are now. Like, how did it all begin for you?
It began, I think, a little different than most in this space was with autographs. I valued autographs a lot. Then into the card market back in the '80s. I'm talking before grading was even around, and then when it was still really the Wild West. And then I think in 2020 or 2021, I started seeing this increase in the card market as far as you saw how it peaked and people were just spending godly amount of money on cards, which I thought were way overvalued. And I turned to tickets in 2020 and 2021, and I saw the value there. I saw the scarcity in tickets rather than the false scarcity in some of these modern cards that they have and create. And that's the direction I went with my collection.
Yeah, and I kind of, I did a show on tickets. I have a few. I'm not nothing along the lines of the collection you have, but I've started to dabble in it. When you think about a ticket, this is how I see it. Right, cards are sort of intrinsically collected, even the vintage one and that. But when you think about ticket, even when I was a kid, it was just a vessel to get into the event, whether it be a concert, a game. You put it in your pocket, it gets crumpled up. After the game, you throw it out. You get home, you might throw it out when you empty your pockets. And there's only so many printed, right? There's only enough printed for the capacity of the event. And I would say a good percentage of those were not saved. And so I think when you mentioned it just now, Mark, when you think about scarcity, um, I think tickets are just inherently are harder to find, especially the further back you go. And even nowadays with the current event, like they don't even issue hard tickets anymore. It's all on your phone and a barcode. Now you can go to the box office if it's a significant game or a debut or something happens during the game, a no hitter, and request a hard copy ticket. But generally, you don't get one anymore like you used to. Kind of your thoughts. You agree with that, or you want to add
That's
to that?
that's correct. So let's go back to the early days. Back then, card collecting was huge in the vintage market. They everybody collected cards, um, and tickets again weren't a collectible at the time. But if you think about but people like to back then more so than other tickets. Opening day and World Series tickets were real collectible. To be honest with you, back in the 40s and 50s and 60s. So you would see more of those. And when I say more of those, like the Jackie Robinson debut, which I have right here, this Jackie Robinson debut was an opening day ticket. So, and it was highly anticipated by both the African American community and the integration of baseball. So it was highly touted as a game. So a lot of people went to that game, and there was more tickets saved. And when I say saved, there's 11 of them graded by PSA. So that's just shows you that's a high population for me in the ticket market.
Yeah, I'm very jealous of that ticket. Would someday would love to own one. I don't foresee it, but and here's the other thing too, Mark. Back then we didn't have the supplies and protection that we have. So even people who went to that game, was probably stuffed in their pocket, maybe crumpled up, folded in half. And so when you get into the grading aspect, to find one in better condition, let's say, than probably most. I mean, obviously that factors into what something's gonna go for. So, while like you said, opening day World Series are maybe more kept or more collectible, there's still then you got the condition aspect of it too.
Correct.
People
Correct.
walking around with like a binder or a top loader to put it in once they got it, and it was kind of in the pocket, and some of them probably made it through okay, but a lot of times they didn't, and I'm sure there's
Even of the 11, yeah, even of the 11, I'm sorry to interrupted you. Of the 11 that are graded, there was some scrapbook issue, some scrapbook paper loss because a lot of people put them in scrapbooks instead of, protecting them. And like I said, back then, encapsulation was not even
yeah.
an invention back then. So,
And people did that with cards. They glued them to albums. So that's not
yeah,
exclusive to tickets. That was how you showed off stuff. You pulled out
right.
there was no top loader pages or pages to slide into where they can be non-glued in. That was how you pictures, even family photos were glued into albums at that time. So
That's
that was
correct.
that's very prevalent and common, and obviously does factor in what condition these may be in. And when you think 11, 11 copies known to exist, just an extremely low a number. But we were talking off the air before we started recording, and you also, not to steal your thunder, but you're going to show it. You have the Clemente debut ticket, and you informed me that there's actually less of those than the Jackie, which kind of surprises me. And I'll let you kind of elaborate on that.
Sure. So the Clemente debut was okay. Again, I'll mention that it was not on an opening day. It was a double header. I think let's see, April 17th. So it was 2 days after opening day on that season when he came through, and it was a double header. He played both games. He got his first hit in that game as well in his first debut in his debut game. So the Clemente debut ticket, which is right here, is a pop one. There is no other one that known to exist. And for a player like Clemente, that's big.
Yeah, that's crazy. So right there, you just said. I mean, I don't think I misheard you. That's the only one that's known to exist.
That's correct.
That's something else. I mean, no other way to say it. I'm almost lost
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a way to describe it. Can you talk? I don't. Not so much the value. I mean, that's your business. But can you talk about the acquisition of that? How did you manage to get it?
Yeah, so this was an auction. People put certain values on tickets and cards. Cards are a little bit more. I think people look at comps on cards, and that's how they value their cards when they before they put a, a an auction ceiling bid or a bid in on an auction. Tickets to me, when I saw this one, it was at an auction. I knew it was the only one that ever existed, and it was Clemente. So the reason I went after that one hard was there's a pop one of one. And you'll see as we go on in this podcast that my collection consists of more population one tickets and cards than anything else.
Yeah, that's amazing stuff. And I mean, do you when you do you ever like sell, like people do with cards, Mark? Oh, I want to get this. I'm going to move this because I rather have that. Do you do that, or once you own something, it's kind of like it's in my collection, and I'm just going to add to that collection. How do you know what's the sort of the modus operandi there, if you will?
Sure. So I don't know. I do have some things on eBay that I actively sell. They're usually cards or doubles that I have in tickets. Those are the only ones I sell. I don't sell to move something to buy another item, but I do sell if I acquire a better copy of an existing ticket that I already have or a better copy of an existing card that I already have. So I'll sell for that reason. Other or I sold a Derek Jeter in March of 21, a Derek Jeter SP foil rookie card, PSA 10. I sold that in 2021, and the it was astronomical offer. I mean, went through PWCC. It was $690,000 at the time. Is when what the offer came in at, and took it right away.
And then put it onto the ticket side, I'm assuming, or at least
That
sold.
that is correct. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
almost some of these tickets, and I'll just give you an example of the Jackie Robinson ticket. The Jackie Robinson ticket, virtually free for what I did to get that ticket and things I gave up. I was in a couple of PSA 10 Jordan 86 Fleer Jordans that back in 2015 and 14 that real good that I sold in 21. I was able to just cover the cost of that Jackie Robinson and still on the and be even on both. I didn't lose any
Yeah.
money on either one.
Do you? I think I know the answer to this question, but for those listening, I mean, you enjoy the ticket collecting aspect more than the cards. Do you want? I know you have cards. Do you sometimes? Do you want to phase out cards, or do you kind of want to kind of do both?
Oh, I absolutely want to do both. So, and the reason for that, and I'll tell you, John, is what I do is I couple a ticket. Most of the time, I'll try to take a subject like, say, Mickey Mantle, and I'll take his debut ticket, which I have right here. So this is his debut, and
Right.
I love this debut. Just to explain the debut for a second, then I'll go back to what we were talking about. It's gate number 6. Uh, Section 7. So he went into the league with number 6. When he went back down to the minors, came back up. The 6 was not available. They gave him 7. So I look for different reference points to the player sometimes when I'm buying
Yeah.
tickets, just as something fun
It's
to
yeah.
do. And so
Yeah.
that, and but
Connect the
also,
connection. You connect the dots in a way.
oh yeah, you kind of connect the dots. And then I have his rookie card here, or is
Yep.
considered, his rookie card. And then I
Well, it's
also
not his
have
rookie, but it's the most iconic card and the most
iconic
desired
card. And
mana.
I think most
Yeah,
people
most
know the story behind that, the
yeah,
52 tops. Yeah.
yeah,
So which
yeah.
makes it a rare card. And then I also have which I didn't bring out, but I have a type 1 photo of him, uh, Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio together on his debut game. Right before the game, they took a picture of all three of them together and signed by Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, we've seen the Type One photo market explode. Very similar to the ticket market in the last few
Sure.
years. Um, with the tickets, I mean, you got right there. You just showed 3 or 4 amazing pieces. Obviously, you have more than that as well. I mean, is there anything that you haven't checked off your want list that's become difficult? In that way, maybe heck, if someone's listening, maybe it becomes fruitful at some point, or not necessarily.
Sure. No, I absolutely. So I grew up with Griffey. I graduated high school in '88. Griffey, was debuted in '89. So I was a big Griffey fan all through, the '90s, and so I have his debut ticket on, of course. Those are rare to find, by the way. I don't know why Griffey's debuts were so rare to find, but this one's signed by Griffey. And then what I did with Griffey's is I got a lot of one-of-one Griffey's cards to couple with his debut, but I've had these cards longer than I've had the debut. So this is a Fleer Glossy, just a one-of-one 1010. I also have the Bowman Tiffany 1010, which is a more desired card than even his upper deck card. And then do you know anything about the Desert Shield uh, collection, the
Yeah,
Desert Shield set?
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
they 1991. I was actually in the Gulf War. I brought a lot of these cards home with me because it's
there
where
you
they
go.
went. They were issued to all the troops in Desert Shield.
Yeah.
If and anyway, this is a 910. This is the highest graded, and it's a one of one as well. Signed by Griffey. And then the iconic 93 refractor finest,
Yeah, that's awesome.
and that's a 910 as well.
That's incredible. Is there something though that you're missing? Is there one that's become sort of elusive to you, or not
No,
necessarily?
that's what I was getting to with the Griffies was that like no. So, but when the Bowman Tiffany came up for sale just recently,
Yeah,
it was a one of one. It's a one of one, and I wanted that car. You know, that's again,
yeah,
they're rare, they're hard to find. In the Tiffany, it's even hard to get them to get a 10 signature, let alone a 10 grade on the
yeah,
Tiffany. So I knew that was going to be never surface again if I didn't go after it.
yeah. That's an incredible piece, and like you said, it's hard enough to find an unsigned one in a 10 form, let
Mm,
alone a signed one. When you think about it, signed ones obviously being handled even a little bit more,
sure.
so more opportunity for something potentially
I can
bad
even
to
I can
occur.
give you another example of that too.
Yeah,
So I'm a big Montana. I'm a Northern California, born and raised Northern California guy. I Joe Montana, Steve Young, Jerry Rice collector, and I was collecting Joe Montana cards. You know, his rookie card, his 81 tops card, and I had a few tens of his. And this one came up. This is a Joe Montana, the only one that exists. It's a 1010. It's Auto 10 with in my opinion, there'll never be another one of these. They're not ripping any more wax of the 81 tops anyway, and I don't think anybody would crack a 10. And if they did, it would have to regrade as a 10 as well after he signs it. So there's a lot of risk involved. And I couple that with his debut ticket as well, which I just got signed by Montana. Jeffrey Rosenberg helped me with that one at TriStar. He got it signed for me.
yeah, that's incredible. I love how you kind of pair them up as well, and kind of put the whole story together. Like you said, the 81 tops is famous for condition issues.
And
You even
it's
if you
very a
find
soft card.
you could find an unopened box and you open package, they're going to come out off centered, print marks. I mean, it's
Chipped
classically known
edges.
for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the fact that you have a 10, like you said, they're just not that readily available, if at all. Then you add in the signature, and you enhance an incredible item gets even more incredible, and then to match it with the ticket. That's just really cool. Is you know do how do you like? I know you said nothing really elusive. Does something like come up on your radar and you say, "Man, I got to do that," or is it now more with maybe some of the newer players that are in the midst of their careers?
So being in Baton Rouge, I'm a big Joe Burrow fan. Collect for fun. You know, that's not an investment. Those are if it ever was, it's a long term investment at best. So no, but I do collect Joe Burrow, and but as far as modern and ultra modern cards, I don't flip. I don't buy those. I'm too risk adverse for all that, and the money that those cards are bringing in, it it's scary. I feel like a Joe Montana 1010 is worth 10 times the amount a Josh Allen, PSA 10 of his rookie card because there's so many of his rookie cards and people are paying millions of dollars for them. So
So I know, like you mentioned some auction. Will you go to shows and try to see what others have available, maybe, or not necessarily?
I do. I'll be in the Dallas show this in May, and then I do go to shows, but you don't see a lot of ticket collections unless you go to the National, and you're
Yeah,
starting to see it like last year in Chicago. My sons and I went to the National, and we saw a ton of tickets and other collectibles other than just cards. So
yeah.
yeah, I do go to shows. I like shows. I like the camaraderie between collectors. I get to meet up with some guys that I talk to all the time online.
I think you can tell me where I'm wrong or right or whether you agree. I think we're seeing the ticket market, I think it's growing. I think more people are getting into it. Just like cards, unfortunately, right? Anyone that can make a buck the wrong way will attempt to. And so, like on the card side, we've seen some counterfeits or replicas. Um, how if someone, obviously you're a veteran of it now, but for someone who was like thinking about getting into it, maybe some tips or advice to someone new getting into ticket collecting on how so they don't have a bad experience and then exit just as fast as they started.
Oh, sure. So I think a common mistake and a big one, especially on eBay, is there's proof tickets. So proof tickets will come across with no seat number, no section number, no row number. It's a ticket that they printed either to check the printing press, or in case they needed the extra ticket, they can put a seat, section, and row on there to reprint a ticket for somebody. But they were never used for the game. And on eBay, it's the ticket market, I think, is still in the Wild West phase, if you ask me, because there's no authentication process like they do with cards or jewelry or anything else on eBay. So I think there needs to be something like that, and I think that's being explored through Darren Ravel's new um, venture with his hobby news station or TV station that he started just recently. So I think he's going to hold eBay accountable to some of those items as well. But that's the first thing I would look for is if it doesn't label it a proof and you don't see a seat number, section number, or row number, that's a proof ticket that never entered the game, and that's the value of it is minuscule compared to a real ticket of the same game.
Yeah, good advice. There are, I've even in my own searches on eBay per se, you see what's a replica ticket and the seller kind of disingenuously doesn't really it's not prevalently found. You got to read like the description. And a lot of people,
Exactly.
I think we both can agree, a lot of people are looking at the title only, and maybe someone's buying it for someone else as a gift, and they're not as well versed as maybe me or you are with stuff like that. And you can find out after the fact, like, this isn't what I thought it was when I purchased it. And some of that, like you said, I think what eBay's got to be a little more on top of that, and watching out for some of that stuff.
Yeah,
So
you definitely cannot be lazy when buying, especially if you're going to buy a raw ticket. Definitely do your research on the ticket itself, no matter what it says in the title or in the description. If you're buying a raw ticket and it's not on a flip with PSA, or even if it is on the flip, do your research, because I'll give you another example of a ticket that was graded, um, not mislabeled, but not detail labeled on REA, and it was Jackie Robinson's first hit, and which is in and of itself is a great ticket to have, especially for first hit collectors, for Hall of Famers. Um, but it was also Duke Snyder's debut game, and they didn't put that on there, which unfortunately for the consigner would have brought 3 or 4 times more money for that ticket. And it did not, because they didn't have a full description of the ticket on there. Me and one other guy that asked if he was going after that ticket, and I backed off of it, are the only ones I think knew that that was Duke Snyder's debut, and he ended up getting the ticket.
yeah, and like you said, there's one that flew under the radar, right? You knew
That's
it,
yeah.
but maybe a lot of other people didn't. Even the seller, right? He could have probably had a better sale, maybe if he had uh, made sure that was designated.
And I think I hold these auction houses responsible for some of that. I think they ought to not just take the word of the consigner, but they ought to do their own research for that. Burgundy. I don't know if you know Chris Burgundy or the Burgundis at all.
A little, I know of them. Yep, I don't know them on like a personal level. Yep.
They have, Chris has his own little venture of selling collectibles, and he has a few things in mind. And I gave him, I think, a Jeter game used Jeter jersey to sell for me, and he actually found out, the Jeter hit 3 doubles and 2 triples that game. It was one of the best hitting games he ever had, and so he was able to, add more value to the game used jersey aspect of it.
Yeah, that's a great point too, Mark. I think the auction houses or the selling consignment services, I think they need to do, they probably could do a better job with the provenance or what happened during this game and kind of the to promote, right, and highlight the sale,
Of
right.
course, of
I think
course.
that almost should be second nature, and yet I think a lot of them do a good job. I don't want to kind of paint with that broad brush, but like you said, in some cases they maybe they miss a curveball there, and you know they do a
I'll tell
straight.
you,
Yeah, go ahead.
some of the best auction experiences I've had probably are Leland's. I've had a real good auction experience with Leland's. I can put a ceiling bid, outrageous ceiling bid. No one is not ever going to hit that just because I want an item there. And no, I don't know if they can see the ceiling bid or not. I assume they can. I don't know if they can or not. But I don't ever see any funny stuff happening with them. I'm not going to mention these auction houses, but I've been to other auction houses where I've bid on things, ceiling bid, and it just happens to end up on the ceiling bid, at the
Yeah,
end of
make
at the end of the auction.
makes you scratch your head and wonder,
Yeah.
as would be natural for anyone to think, right? It makes
No,
I would
yeah.
agree with that.
I'll give you an example of how you can kind of catch that is say there's 25 bids on the item, and then the ceiling bid hits at the 26th bid. You know, yeah. So
Yeah, just
it's right at the end of the auction.
yeah,
So
yeah, funny math comes out to be
yeah, it's kind of gets it's
fun.
suspicious at best.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, I get it. And so when you find, like you said, when you find someone that you really feel like has integrity, you can trust, it makes a difference. And when it comes to
Yeah.
raw and graded, and you buy in tickets, do you obviously? I think you'd rather have it graded. Do you tend to buy more raw and then grade yourself, or do you tend to acquire more that's already encapsulated?
No, so I tend to buy more encapsulated graded items. Just I trust the process there. There are some mistakes, but not very many. On the raw items, I will do it, but I price differently. So I will not spend the what high value or what the market is bringing for that ticket right then for a raw ticket of the raw version of the same ticket.
Yeah, yeah, and that obviously makes sense. Has the
Yeah.
market gotten more competitive as more people get into the ticking collecting niche or
I'll tell
aspect?
you,
Can you
yes,
see? Is it like can you feasibly tell like there's more people starting to do it now?
there are more people. Ticket collectors are different though, so there's some crossover with cards, with card collectors. I think some card collectors are going to tickets, but ticket collectors, I don't want to say card collectors aren't gentlemen, but are more like with the Jackie Robinson first hit. We're a smaller community, so we kind of know each other. We know what each other look for. I knew this guy was a Jackie Robinson. First of all, he has a Jackie Robinson debut. He's a first hit collector. So that was one. That's why I had reached out to him on that ticket. Um, yeah, so I see a lot of crossover. Grading was never big on tickets as far as until that crossover happened and tickets got real popular. Now grading is looked at a little bit more than it used to be. So, but just like I'll give you the example. If you can get a three, both look at Jackie Robinson, I mean not Jackie Robinson, Mickey Mantle debut, Hank Aaron debut, and the Joe Montana debut, even the Jackie Robinson's the 1.5. These were all three respectively, and that's considered a high grade for a ticket. Like you said, a vintage ticket, usually shoved in someone's back pocket, would be, they wouldn't turn out that great. So, a 3 or a 4 is considered a high grade for a ticket.
Yeah, no doubt. Like with cards, they're not. Well, people did put them in their pocket, but most people knew like, hey, I'll try to keep this as straight as possible, other than putting it in your bike spokes, like my dad did as a
Yeah,
kid. But
right.
tickets were, like I said earlier, and I think you agree. Tickets were just viewed, especially in the vintage era, as just a vessel to, just a means to get through the doors to see the event. And then once you were in, like you said, they crumpled in the back pocket, front pocket, thrown out, probably it through a trash as they exited the arena or stadium or event, or got home. And you take your pants off at the end of the day, clean out turn your pocket, see what's in your pockets. Oh, I went to this game. Throw the ticket away. And so, like you said, number one, there's just not as many of these things when you compare it to cards, and then the condition of them is not going to be comparable to cards, which is exactly what you're saying. With a 3 and a 4 is in a card grade, it's you're not getting super excited, but in the ticket side of things, it's a whole different aspect, and just because of the
And
way they were handled.
back to what you were saying as far as when I was getting into the ticket market, what I thought, and in my mind, it's about as close to the players you can get with a ticket than other than a used uniform or bat of the player of that day. So this ticket to Jackie Robinson or to Clemente's debut games, that's as close to that players as you're going to get without some game used from that game or without being there yourself. And a lot of
No,
us aren't of that age, so we were
yeah,
never going to be there.
yeah. I mentioned the counterfeiting aspect. How prevalent as someone who's really involved in the tickets collecting in the market? How prevalent is that? Am I making too much of it, or is it an issue?
It's not an issue if it's PSA graded because, and I'm going to tell you why. Before I started investing heavily into tickets, I went to PSA, had a tour, sat down with the guys at PSA in the ticket grading. So even Nat Turner, I sat down with him. They have a machine. They can test paper. They can age paper. They can test the age of paper, the ink, the print on the paper. So I've after being shown how they test the paper and can check for counterfeiting, um, I was more comfortable with their grading process and authentication process.
Yeah, but on the raw side, I mean, do you think there are people out there trying to pull fast ones over the ticket collecting public? And how easy is it to tell on a raw card? Obviously, PSA's got all those tools in house and
Sure,
experts in house. But for someone who's at a show or online, even doesn't have to be just at a show online, and looking to buy a raw ticket, maybe to eventually, get it encapsulated, but they're trying to buy it raw first. How much is counterfeit, you know, Fugazi tickets? How big of an issue is it for someone in that market?
I've never ran into it or heard of a story about it, but I'm sure where there's a chance to make money, I'm sure there's fraud in any aspect of any collecting.
Yeah, no doubt. How do you view? I mentioned earlier, Mark, how like in today's sporting events, everything's barcode on your phone, or print out the barcodes on your home printer, and you just show those to the ushers coming through, or the ticket takers. They scan it with their little handheld units. So really, the tickets almost don't exist today. So you're at a game, and it's a no hitter. I mean, what I said, is that what you would do? Like in that case, is to get a hard copy ticket, is go to the box office and get one. And like you said, you want to get the ticket which has where you were sitting, right? Your row, your section, your seat number,
Sure.
not just one that says, April 26th, Orioles versus Rangers, Mitt
Yeah,
one type of thing.
you don't want a commemorative ticket because those aren't valued as high. But the trick, let me give you the little cheat code to that. So if you do get a barcode, but you want a ticket to the game, regardless of what happened in the game. If you want, what I make it a practice of doing is going to the box office and saying my phone battery is dead, and they'll issue a ticket to get into the game at the at the box office too. So short of doing that, you're going to get a commemorative ticket. I will tell you this, Buster, a friend of mine, he went to the Warriors Knicks game and saw Curry hit the record breaking 3-pointer, for this so he got that ticket and he had Curry sign it and he sent it to me. That was one ticket I did buy raw. I knew it was Buster's. I know Buster. He got
Yeah.
into the game with it. It was on my birthday, December 14th. I bought it from him. I sent it to PSA and got it graded, and it graded out in great condition. But typically on that game, there's a lot of commemorative tickets. So if you're not, just give you an example, if it doesn't say issue date December 14th, I think it was 2022 or something like that. If it doesn't say that, don't buy it because then it's a commemorative ticket.
Yeah, and it can be confusing to someone that doesn't know what they're looking for. And I've seen those commemorative tickets, for sale online where I'll even stick up for the seller, Mark. I don't think they even realize that it's a commemorative ticket. I think they think
That's
themselves it's the actual, hard copy ticket when it's not. So I'll stick up for them.
correct.
I don't even think they realize. I think they have something that's not what they actually have, and then in turn, someone else might get fooled into buying it. And so all these
And
tips are important. Yeah,
it's easy to tell if but between those sellers on eBay because typically those sellers don't sell too many tickets. They don't have too many in their inventory or on their eBay account. So yeah, you're probably right. They're naive to the fact they probably bought it at a show, was told one thing, and it's another. But if you go onto a site or an eBay account and they're selling a ton of tickets, they know what they're talking about. And if they don't disclose that it's a commemorative ticket, um, then it's shame on them.
yeah. With more people getting involved, obviously, today's events are a little bit different, like we just discussed. Do you think the modern ticket market, if you will, if there is such a thing. I don't know if I just coined it. Do you think that will be strong as well, or you think it'll always be really those you know post war kind of the 40s, 50s, and those kind of tickets that in other words,
Yeah, I think
someone yeah, go
go
ahead, go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, I think pre-war, post-war, vintage tickets are always going to be more desirable.
Yeah,
As you get more into the digital age, you're not going to see as much collecting on those games just because you can't unless everybody
yeah,
lines up at the box office with a dead phone battery. Uh,
yeah,
you're just not going to see that. And then sometimes there are venues that say if you do not come with your phone, you better print it out at home in case your battery dead is dead and print it out on your printer.
yeah.
So then you won't get into the game. So sometimes it won't work. Just claiming your phone battery is dead.
Yeah, I usually get in with the barcode on my phone. You're in line to get in. You see other people with just their printer paper with literally just a barcode on it. That's really it, and
That's
they
it.
scan it and they get in. Um, with more people getting in, though, do you think they're not making more of those pre and post war tickets? Do you think it's? I know you said the communities kind of works with each other, like you said you work, with the Jackie Robinson guy. Do you think that might change as stuff really dries up? I mean, it's already fairly dry. You think it gets more cutthroat with more people sort of getting into the space?
I don't think cutthroat is a good word for it. I think it gets competitive to the sense that if somebody wants something, they'll just keep their mouth shut about it and they'll go after it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you know, they'll do that. But you're typically on things like the Jackie Robinson or Mickey Mantle. They're not flip. We're not flipping tickets like they do with these ultra modern or modern cards. And just to give you an example, the Jackie Robinson that sold on Heritage a couple years back, I think it was $460,000 was
Yeah.
that was the owner of the Brewers that actually bought that ticket.
Hmm.
And that's in a collection that's never going to leave. So that's just one you can check. I guarantee out of the 11, 10 of them you can check you'll never see again.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect that it's more like one way where cards are constantly. I bought it, but I'm going to sell it in 3 months or next year. And there's more move. There's more movement with cards comparatively speaking to tickets. Just to the fact they're just that when you look at tickets compared to cards, like you said, Mark, there's just far less
And
of
there's
them available, and people know that. They do their
Yeah,
homework and they
even
know that.
with the Mickey Mantle, there's 20, probably 21 of them. That's considered extremely high, but for a player like Mickey Mantle, it's really not. 21 of them.
Yeah.
You know, anybody would love to have a Mickey Mantle debut, especially in good condition like a three. I think that's the highest graded. There might be one graded in a four, but I think the three is the highest graded.
Yeah. You mentioned you got debut tickets, you got World Series tickets, first hits, accomplishments during the game, a no hitter, perfect game.
Hmm.
Do you think, to you, what's of significant? How would you rank them? In other words, is there something that in your mind, like when you're looking for these, like I want this before this? How would you rate them according to your scale? In other words,
My scale is I'm a debut collector. I think debuts are moments in time. Yeah, like I even go. Let's just go to Kobe's debut. First of all,
yeah, that's cool.
again, it's the only full debut you'll see of Kobe's that's graded by PSA. Secondly, like I'll go back to the reference points of the player. So it's in seat 8, which is his rookie number, and then
Yeah,
row 2, which is Gigi's his daughter's number. So
yeah,
I tied those are two ties to that player, and unfortunately, they had passed away already before I acquired that ticket. Um, but I was able to reference. But um, this is a one of one. But he did accomplish nothing in this game. I think he scored maybe. He didn't even score 10 points. I don't think in this game. 7 or 8 points.
yeah.
Um, and
But
but it was the beginning of a great career.
yeah, here's the thing: he could have scored. He could have played and scored 0 points, like you just said. That was where it started, right? That's where he first stepped on an NBA court for real
Yeah,
and played a
like
game
the
that counts.
Montana, he went on to do. They put him in this is 1979. They put him in as a place kicker, and they were going to run a fake on the and try to go for 2 points on a fake, and they scratched the play at the last minute, but he still place kicked. He still place held the football. That was his debut game. That was the
Yeah.
first time he played in an NFL game. So it was kind of lackluster, but again, it's the first time he stepped foot
Yeah, see
on a field.
that doesn't obviously, having a big debut is nice, but it's still a debut. Like you can't take like that when someone asks, "Hey, when did that player first step on the field for the first time?" That's it.
That's it.
There's no other
That's it.
there's no other answer. The answer's not, well, he didn't do much that game, so the next game I'll count. That's the game. So
No,
um
you can't. You just take the whole definition of debut out of out of the picture, and
yeah,
you can. There's so
yeah,
many. You can do that 100 times, but you know, even debuts of certain other things. So this is Michael Jordan's NBA
that's
debut,
yeah,
and it's a red, which is the most desirable. And it's 1984. Let's see what the date was. Oh, October 26th. So on November 17th. This is the debut of the Air Jordan ones. So this is the first
yeah,
game he ever played with the Michael Jordan Air Jordan ones.
that's cool.
So there's only four of these in existence. Three Reds and one box office or Ticketmaster. I have two of them. I have the Red and a Ticketmaster. I know Darren Ravel has one, and I know another guy has another one out of Chicago.
Yeah. Now, when you have a ticket, and you're not upgrading. In other words, like you said, hey, I have a one, but I bought a three. Now I'll sell the one. Do you typically just keep one of each variant? In other words, is there a ticket where maybe you're fond of and you're like, you know what, I have five of them, I like them all, or is it really like I just want one and the best one I can get?
That's it. I just want one. I
Yeah,
don't try to hoard different
yeah,
tickets. I had the Ticketmaster, and the more, like I said, the more desirable on the Air Jordan
yeah.
debut is the red. So I actually the Ticketmaster one. Again, there's only four of them in existence. Three of them are red. They're never going out of anybody's collection. And then the one Ticketmaster one is on my eBay account,
You know,
up for sale
uh,
on eBay.
and I'll kind of we're coming down the home stretch. I'll close with this thought too, and I think you'll agree with me too, Mark. A lot of times we hear these finds, right? Someone goes in an attic, and they find a whole bunch of pre-war cards or post-war significant cards, or some sealed wax from the 40s or 50s or
Right.
60s, right? I don't really see that. I don't know if you agree. I don't really see those kind of stories with tickets, like someone finding, hey, I found a whole shoebox of tickets. I mean, I'm sure it's not impossible, but not in the same vein as we see on the card side of the house. Would
That's
you
and
would
you're
you
you're
tend to
right
agree?
on that. Yeah, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Matter of fact, this Jackie Robinson was, I think someone knew they had it. They weren't a collector. I
Yeah,
think they saw that recent sell on Heritage, and this one specifically was taken out of a scrapbook. It doesn't have any paper loss, so it wasn't glued into the scrapbook, but it was had those four corners things that you
corners.
could
Yep.
that they slid it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was one of those deals, but they ended up getting it graded, and I think that's the story behind this ticket specifically. Typically, the people that kept their tickets in scrapbooks weren't collectors of any other memorabilia at that time.
Yeah.
So you won't
Yeah.
usually they probably aren't being unearthed anywhere.
Yeah, and then to me that just adds to the mystique and the rarity and the scarcity of ticket collecting. I did a show. I have another podcast called Hobby Quick Hits, which is just me and a topic. It's shorter, and I tackled tickets and I gave all my reasons why I think it's a market we don't talk about enough about, and when we compare it to the card side, they're vastly different in many ways.
They are. They're
So
unique in their own sense.
yeah,
I love getting my tickets signed. Pete
yeah,
Rose's. I have the only full debut ticket of Pete Rose, and I
that's
went to
cool.
lunch with him and Fitterman on this Ryan Fitterman,
Yeah,
and I have this. There's
yeah,
one of four stubs signed. This is a stub. Um, the reason I got these signed was because Ryan called me one Sunday and asked me to come the next day to Houston. I drove over, but it's just getting them signed. You get to talk to the player. First of all, they've
yeah,
probably never seen their debut ticket before.
yeah,
Um, Secondly, Pete, you ask him a question about that debut game. The only thing he remembered was that yeah, Pete's a good guy. I like Pete. Was he played against Clemente, and he couldn't believe his first game he's playing is against Clemente. So
yeah. You ever have in a situation where you're meeting the actual player whose debut ticket you have or significant? Have you ever had a player try to acquire that from you? Like, hey, I need that in my collection.
no, but I had the guy that who's the son that owns the Yankees, Steinbrenner. What's Hal?
Uh,
Hey,
Hal, yeah, yeah,
Hal.
Hal
Okay,
and Hank.
he reached out to Nat Turner for my Mickey Mantle debut, and I'm not giving that up. They don't come up very often, so
Yeah, no, hey, I don't blame you. I'm
yeah.
sure you could have got if you live closer. I don't, you're not a Yankee fan, but if you live closer to the Bronx, you
Oh,
probably could
I
have got like
take
a
that back.
lifetime pass.
I'm a Yankee
Oh,
fan.
okay, all right. Well,
I'm a diehard
you
Yankee
could have
fan.
got you could have got probably besides monetary value, you probably could have got lifetime, box seat tickets as
Yeah, I
well.
didn't think about it then, but immediately I said no to Nat. I was like, I'm not giving it up.
No, and like you said, what did you say? There's 21 of those or something like
Yeah,
that.
there's 21 of them, and he'll find one, I'm sure,
That's
somewhere, but
yeah.
not in good condition with the reference points that this one has.
Now, what if he asks you, "Hey, I don't want to acquire it, but can you put it on loan for, they have like a museum inside Yankee
Sure.
Stadium. Like it'll be under tight security behind museum acrylic glass with security uh procedures in place. Would that be something you're open to, or not necessarily?
No, definitely. I was approached by acquisition guy for the Hall of Fame for the
I
Jackie
was gonna
Robinson.
say, yeah,
Yes, and they wanted to display that there, but it was too open ended, and the
yeah,
contract was too loose, and they were unnegotiable on it. So
yeah,
I ended up turning that one down. The Mickey Mantle in that scenario that you just gave, I would definitely let them display it.
yeah. That's cool. I mean, I think that's cool. And then people, it's still yours. Obviously, it's still under your ownership, but people can enjoy it. And, it's not something you see all the time. It definitely is a conversation piece. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of rides home from a Yankee game where, like, did you see that ticket, man? That was crazy type of, that
That's
sort of thing.
it's funny because I'll go to a card show and I'll bring the Jackie or the Clemente or even the Mickey Mantle and any of these debuts, and that's people want to have pictures taken with them. They
Yeah.
want their
See,
picture taken with the
I
debut
give you,
ticket.
I give you credit, Mark. I'd be too nervous. I'd be too nervous to bring it, right? Just like I've said
Very
it.
rarely do I. Yeah, very rarely do
Yeah.
I do that.
Me, I
I'll
with
hire
my
security with me.
yeah. Well,
Some of
Mark,
this stuff,
incredible.
it's going back to the bank, so bank vault.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, listen, incredible collection. I appreciate you coming on and sharing some of that insight, and where a lot of people probably are, maybe on the fence, right? I kind of want to do,
Right.
but I don't know. And it's nice, like you said, the ticket collecting community sort of helps each other out, looks out for each other, and that's always nice to hear. We need more stuff like that rather than the reverse. So
That is correct. And John, I appreciate you inviting me on your show. It's been
no,
an
no,
honor
and
and a
listen,
pleasure.
I love to have you back. This doesn't have to be a one hit wonder, as they say. So love to have you
Yeah,
back to
anytime.
kind of follow up. I always give the guests the kind of the final word. Any like social media, anything you want to share, where people can see your incredible collection, or not to make work for you, but maybe if they had a question for you or that sort of thing.
Sure.
Where go ahead.
So I wanted to mention that Instagram is a good tool for me to display my collection. Everything I own, more or less, is on my Instagram account. That's all I'll post on my on stories and on my timeline. So if you go to Marc_Mader, Marc_Mader, you can go to my Instagram account and you can see an entire collection there. Just keep scrolling down. If you don't see something that we've talked about during the show, you'll eventually find it.
Yeah, and I've looked through it. It's amazing stuff, and I get a little jealous. I'm not gonna lie. Probably a little drool on my shirt, especially when it comes to the Jackie, being a Brooklyn kid, Jackie Brown. My dad lived at Ebbets Field, and so I got all
Oh
the
wow,
stories from him, and just
yeah.
what he meant, not even on the field, but even off the field. He became. I was just doing every book report or essay I did in school was to the point teachers were like they knew ahead of time, like John, you got to pick someone else other than Jackie Robinson. You did that one right. So
They wanted you to get
so
off that
yeah.
subject.
Not well, they were nice about it. Like he's a great man, but you've went down that alley too much. Like pick somebody else
Exactly.
for a change.
Exactly.
So well, Mark, again, I appreciate it, man. Awesome you sharing your collection. A lot of times when people have great collections, sometimes people are reluctant to share them and stuff like that. And you're very unselfish that way, and we appreciate it. So
Okay. Well, John, again, thank you very much for having me on your show.
yeah, no, thank you. Take care.
Okay, you too. Bye bye.